Welcome, welcome. This is the Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. This is where Chicken Soup for the Soul meets the artist way with Nancy Drew. Our guest today is Meredith Martin, and we're going to be chatting with her today all about her journey with scoliosis and dancing and how it's led to finding herself in modeling and stilt walking. Welcome, Meredith.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're so welcome. I've been anticipating this conversation with you for a while, so it's so fun that it is today and we're here.
Yes, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. We've been connected for a little while on social media, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So glad we're finally here.
Finally come to it, yes. Mm-hmm. What is something joyful that has been happening within your life?
Ooh. Well, I just moved back to New York City, so I think that's probably it's been a source of joy as well as a source of, just trying times because New York is like that. But it's all the kind of struggle that you love. I always wanted to fight for the city, and the pandemic happened and I kind of had to leave before I was ready. And so it's been such a joy coming back here a second time around, kind of with more knowledge, a little more wisdom about the city, and a lot more friends for sure. So it's been so wonderful to reconnect with everybody, and I'm just so glad to be back in the good city.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you're kind of reconnecting that part that you left behind, that you're just picking those pieces back up again?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the pandemic happened so suddenly I think for everybody, and being forced out of the life that I had so carefully created before. And I was in Georgia for 2 years, and now being able to kind of come back, and truthfully, I've been able to step almost right back in where I left off, especially as far as work goes. And it's been the greatest feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and I are both fellow scoliosis warriors, which is how we connected online. I want to say almost about a year ago, and I've loved following your journey. Can you share with us how your scoliosis, where it all began?
Yes. So I was a dancer. Like, I started when I was 4, and I danced very, very heavily. I absolutely loved it. I knew it was what I wanted to do with my life. And then at 10 years old, I was just doing a regular scoliosis check at school, how they always do when you're about middle school age. And they found that I had a slight curve. So it was about 19 degrees when I got diagnosed. And they were like, let's just wait and see. Let's just leave it alone, see what happens. The classic wait and see. And unfortunately, there's very tall genes in my family. So I hit my growth spurt, and I grew about 6 inches in a year. And unfortunately, that also meant I grew into the curve, and it shot up from 19 degrees to 68 degrees. So it got very bad very quickly, and we went from, oh, let's just wait and see, to, oh, you need surgery immediately. And my parents just weren't for that surgery at that time. They were like, this just feels too fast, too much. Let's just, we found a brace. We found the SpineCor brace. So it's the softer, strappy brace. So I wore that for a while, and then my parents wanted me to make the decision because I was a dancer. They were like, we're not going to make this choice for you to have your spine fused and fixed and everything. So thankfully, I'm glad they did it that way. I chose to have the surgery at 21 after I had gone to college and danced my little heart out. I felt like even if the worst happened and I couldn't dance anymore, I felt like I was at a good place, and I needed the surgery at that point. So they reduced it. The final curve was at 73 degrees, and they reduced it to about 25-ish. So I've got 24 screws and 2 rods, and I'm a little titanium warrior.
It delights me for some odd reason that we both have that in common with, like, it's kind of a fascinating thing to say, like, I have 24 screws and 2 titanium rods in my back. It just feels very badass.
Yes, it's always my fun fact whenever, like, I'm in a group of new people and they're like, everyone say a fun fact about yourself. Or it's really fun to throw in if you're playing 2 truths and a lie. That'll be one of my truths, and everyone's like, no way. So I love that fun fact.
Did you have a brace or wear that brace for an extended period of time through, from the time you were 10 that you were diagnosed to 21?
Yeah, so I was braced around, I think 12 was when it really shot up and got bad. And I wore it until probably 11th or 12th grade. And then once I got to college, it was kind of, I don't know, I went through my rebellious stage as we all do, where I was like, I don't want to wear this thing. So I wore it a lot less. It was more of a support thing because we knew at that point that it wasn't going to necessarily fix my spine. It was a support thing
Mhm.
when I had pain. So I would wear it when I had pain after the initial bracing period. But
Mhm.
eventually it just got to a point where I was in so much pain all the time that I knew I needed to get surgery.
How many hours a day did they have you wearing your brace?
They said as much as possible. So basically, anytime I wasn't showering, swimming, or, anything that you can't wear a brace for, they were like, wear it.
I love how you mentioned the rebellious stage of bracing. I don't know if everyone goes through that, but I definitely did. Like, I had a moment from age like 13 and 14 where, like,
Hmm.
at night, I started getting welts, from
Yes.
the straps, and then your shirt sweats so much so it rubs and you get welts. And I was like, it's so painful. I would take it off for a little too long just so I
Hmm.
could breathe for a little bit.
Absolutely. I had the same problem. I got some welts around like my hip area where it was like anchored, and it was just, I couldn't wear it for a few days because it hurt and it was itchy, and then it had to heal. And there's just so many problems that come along with it. And doctors are like to be like, why aren't you wearing your brace all the time? And all of us are like, well, maybe you should look into the design a little more.
I always wondered during the summer, because when it's a hot summer day, everyone's like it's 85 and 90. It feels like over 100 when you're wearing the brace and you're
Oh, it so
sweating
does.
and
It's a whole extra layer of clothing. And then it's hard to wear in the summer too because clothes are thinner and
Mhm.
less covering. And so you want to cover this brace because you don't want to wear it anyway. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's just a hard thing to work around. So
Mhm.
I think we all definitely had that rebellious. And it sucks that it all of this happens in your teenage years because all you want is to blend in and all you want is to be normal.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, it's just a hard thing to find.
Mhm. Let's talk about that a little bit because I definitely agree. Like, thinking middle school years is already so awkward. You're like growing emotionally, mentally, physically, in all these ways that just feel very foreign, on top of adding like that brace and that discomfort. What were some
Yes.
of the things that you went through during that time that was really challenging for you?
Um, I think just the feeling and knowing that I wasn't normal and that I had this thing I had to deal with that nobody else did. Because it's back then, this was all pre-social media, really. Like we had Facebook, but it was in its earliest form. So
Mhm.
there was no like scoliosis community. I didn't know anybody else with scoliosis as bad as me. I didn't know anyone with a spinal fusion. That was just
Mhm.
the isolation feeling really does get to you after a while, especially when you're, trying to learn how to be a human and grow up and you want to just have friends and be normal and cool and wear all the cool kid clothes, but you just kind of can't. I think that I really struggled with that for a while and made my peace with it, thankfully, but it definitely took a long time.
Mhm. Did you have a favorite go-to outfit, Meredith, that was something that felt semi-comfortable but was like you're, confident-ish
Yeah.
during that time?
Um, I don't know. To cover really anything that was a little bit more loose fitting, I
Mhm.
think because as I mentioned earlier, I am very tall. I'm 5'10". So I grew very, very quickly. So my legs are very long and I was just like a little string bean for so long. And so pants never fit right. They were either super baggy or super short. And it took me a long time to find a comfort outfit. So I
Mhm.
don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't say I had a perfect comfort outfit. It was usually like a sweatpants, sweatshirt situation.
that's still really comfortable and like,
Yes,
can fit into pretty much any occasion.
definitely, definitely.
So did yours go? So I'm trying to create a visual for our listeners and viewers who have not experienced what a brace looks like if you have scoliosis. I've
Mhm.
always liked to mention it that it's kind of like it squeezes you like a girdle, except it's not cute and it's, very hard plastic or thin plastic, depending, but still not
Right,
comfortable.
right.
But did you wear, for me, it was always baggy shirts. So, I'd always get like, I'm a small, but I would get a medium t-shirt
Hmm.
size up. So it
Yep.
would go over and not show necessarily the form of the brace. But then
Yes.
like jeans were also very hard because it covers your hips, right? And so
Right.
there's not a lot of jeans that are going to do the pickup
Yes.
over your, the bottom of your hip brace.
Right. And then like if you have a day where you decide not to wear the brace, now all those clothes are too big for you because they were meant to go over the brace. And it all just feeds into a giant struggle. But yes, I feel that. um yeah, I didn't have a Boston brace actually. So mine wasn't a rigid plastic. It's a SpineCor brace. So it had uh an anchor for like their shorts for the bottom. Basically they're like velcro shorts
Oh,
with
fun.
it had a giant hole in the crotch, so you didn't have to worry about using the restroom. And then it was like a big strappy, there's a strap that went across my body, a strap that pulled my rib cage over, so
Oh,
that it was just like a lot of crazy straps. It looked
mhm.
very interesting. And it went fairly well under clothing, but I definitely, with the pants, especially the little shorts you had to wear under, I definitely sized up for pants and anything on the bottom half because it just would make everything fit weird. But yes.
Hmm. Do you remember, Meredith? They had, I like to call them like pantaloons, but they were like basically bell bottoms, but they were like stretchy fabric
Yes.
pants. Those
Yes.
I enjoyed because they could still fit my waist after I pulled off my brace, but they would
Right.
stretch to the brace.
Yes. Yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes. I did love those. They were very comfy. It's like that's definitely a go-to, especially as a dancer, because they were always like comfy and
Hmm.
flowy. Yeah, I like those a lot.
Yes. You were still dancing. I love this, by the way, Meredith, that you, through this whole thing, you were still dancing. Let's talk a little bit about some of the positive things that you saw with you dancing as you were going through scoliosis, and also some of the conflicts that you went through on a day-to-day basis that maybe you didn't talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I some of the benefits for me were that movement is medicine at the end of the day. And I have learned that lesson over and over and over again. And I will preach to the end of my life that dance saved my life in this
Mhm.
scenario, especially because stretching every day, activating all the muscles every single day is the thing that saved me, like my back from getting super bad. I mean, it was super bad, but getting even worse and allowing me to sink into it. And that's just the physical aspect of it. From the mental standpoint, I had an outlet, a creative outlet where I could feel my feelings, but I didn't have to talk about them necessarily because not really many people like truly understand what you're going through. I've been so grateful to find the Instagram community because I can finally talk about it with people who get it. But growing up with that, you don't really have that outlet.
Mhm.
So dance was that outlet for me. And really just allowed me to feel my feelings and just let it go and have a place where I could just let my body be itself. So that was so valuable growing up. But there were definitely disadvantages. I grew up in the ballet world, which is notoriously very strict, very rigid, very cookie cutter. You're trying constantly to fit yourself into this mold of perfection. And it's beautiful and wonderful. And I have so much respect for the ballet world. But I don't necessarily fit in that cookie cutter
Mhm.
mold, which is a hard thing to come to terms with. Um, so when I was in eighth grade, I got to a point, I was in a ballet company as a intern, kind of working my way up to be a core member. And they eventually just were like, hey, because of your spine, we just don't see that happening for you, getting all the way to a core member level. And so that's really, yeah, it was hard. I was really upset about that. But that did push me into the world of jazz and tap and musical theater, and I discovered this whole other world that really fits me a lot better. And I love jazz music, I love musicals, all of the things. And I feel like I I found something that was much more valuable to me long term. And the style of movement works with my body better, everything, and especially post surgery too. I find that a lot of the movements just it works for the body that I have now.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful. It's one of those bittersweet things where it was really hard to come to terms with it at first because I had such a deep love for ballet, and I'm Bionic Ballerina on Instagram because ballet will always be that like foundation for me. Um, so I'll never not be a ballerina at heart, but I love where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell someone that was 14 or your 14-year-old self? What advice would you give them as you're walking through the scoliosis?
Oh, that's so hard. There's so many things.
Mm.
I would probably first and foremost look at my 14-year-old self and tell myself that I'm beautiful because it took me a really long time to believe that. Um, Growing up as a 14-year-old girl in a society that, thrives off of your insecurity and you wanting to look perfect, it's it's something that really it takes a long time for you to believe and like fight for. So I would definitely tell her that she's beautiful and that she's worthy no matter what she looks like. Um, and that I think the biggest thing is that it all gets better. Everything it gets better with time. You learn to cope with things better. And that surgery, while it was terrifying, it will be the best thing that happens for you long term. So
Mhm. What did you learn through that experience of going through surgery and walking through scoliosis?
yeah, I learned a lot. There's something to be said for having the one thing that you live for, which is dancing for me, taken away for 6 months. I wasn't able to dance or move or jump or anything for 6 months, and it was a really really hard time where I kind of had to look at life through a different set of lens. Like, what if I never get to dance again? What do I like to do? It really kind of made me re-examine who I am at the core and like what do I really like? Who do I want to be if dance is not a part of that future? And I had some really good conversations with myself throughout that time. And I found other things. I grew up playing piano and I kind of rediscovered playing music and reading a lot of books. I got back into that. So it was just kind of exploring different parts of myself, I think was really valuable during that healing process.
Hmm. I love that you bring up, Meredith, of like asking yourself those questions and finding different loves again, but in a different way and allowing yourself to almost refine
Yes,
those parts.
absolutely. Yeah, I think we kind of go through that throughout our lives because even as I've shifted through my 20s, I feel like I continuously am asking myself those questions in different like stages of my life. Through the pandemic, I was like, what if I never get to dance professionally again? What if the arts are, different if and when they come back, How is my life going to look if this is no longer an option? There's been several times, I guess, through my 20s where it looks like dance may not be a part of my future, and yet we've prevailed, thank goodness. But, you really have to sit there and ask, who do I want to be, and what do I want my life to be about eventually? So,
Mhm. So you had surgery when you were 21.
21, yes.
Okay. Will you walk us through a little bit of that recovery process of getting yourself from surgery to getting back to dance? How did that look and feel for you?
Yeah. The first 3 weeks, as everybody who's had the surgery knows, is the hardest by far because your whole body just got rearranged. So it was about 3 months before I started moving at all, outside of just walking around. And I started just with some basic ballet, like bar movements, very, very slow, just kind of seeing how my body felt. I wasn't allowed to jump or anything crazy until about 6 months in. But I was cleared. So I had surgery in May, and then I was cleared to dance and jump in November. And then about a month after I was cleared, I came back and did like a full blown choreographed number in December for our school's Christmas cabaret. And so I really, yeah, I really kind of jumped right back in because I was like, I missed it so much. I'm ready to dance. Obviously, there's still a lot of things. I choreographed it around my spine, so it worked that it wasn't overly strenuous. But after that little dance, you know, re what's the word I'm looking for? Up,
Like
I guess.
reacclimated.
Yes, reacclimated. There it is. I spent the next semester just like re-strengthening everything because after 6 months of nothing, I spent a lot of time in the gym, walking, lifting light weights, stretching. So I would say it was about a full year before I really felt like confident in my body again and back to a new normal, because it will never be what it was before. But I had found a new normal about a year in.
Now, your movements, where you still can absolutely move with having the rods in your back, it definitely, because there's not that bend in certain areas. So what did that look like? Did you readapt dance movement in a different way so that your spine could stay straight, but you still could feel into the songs?
Yeah, so it's really kind of a like step-by-step basis. I would try to find some kind of moderation or modification. There it is. Modification that would visually probably look like I was bending my spine. There's a lot of like kind of side movements that I still have a lot of side to side flexibility. So visually it would look like I was bending, but there's actually not really any bending happening. So yeah, it's just kind of working through, like taking class in New York helped a lot because I'd be faced with some choreography that I didn't choreograph. So there would be people who can bend their spines and can do these crazy things. And it would kind of be a puzzle of how am I going to work through this and how am I going to figure out how to make this work for my body. So I think, I don't know, I always love a challenge and I love figuring those things out. And of course, there's certain things where I'm like, there's no way. But for the most part, I feel like it's been fairly successful in finding a way to make it work.
I love your adaptability, and I really like too that I'm sure your skill sets of just trying to figure out that angle and mirror it in a different way has been very interesting.
Yes, it's definitely been a journey. And the same thing goes for like modeling with when we're posing for photos. And I definitely have my side that I favor, and learning how to pose that with like the most symmetry visually is definitely a skill that you acquire over a long period of time. I've taken a lot of bad photos.
Yep, you learn very quickly.
Yeah, you do. I mean, and that's the thing that I feel like we don't value as a society anymore, is how long trial and error takes. Like it's okay. Like you have to kind of be bad at something for a little while until you figure out how to be good at it. And that's okay. I think Instagram makes it look like everybody immediately knows what they're doing, and it's just not accurate.
I love that you are doing modeling because of the conversation that we talked about earlier of how you feel when you have scoliosis and those different insecurities within body image, and how, you kind of feel like you're out of the box now with the different curves and, different spots. I don't want to say disformities because it is, but it's a beautiful piece of what your body is choosing to do.
Yeah.
Now that's art.
Yes, I love it.
How did you step into that first step of modeling and owning that space of, I love the way I look. I want to jump into this new space of confidence and self-awareness?
Yeah. Actually, there was a few photographers along the way as I was getting started who I was just having conversations with them. It was like a TFP shoot, so trade for print kind of, they're working for free, I'm working for free. So there's a lot of room for just, we're both trying to benefit from the situation. And so we got into conversations about like my personal story, because I really wasn't sharing the whole scoliosis thing up until I was probably 24, 25. And it still was just very much a thing that I was trying to cover up at all times. And once I kind of told them my story, they were like, well, we should photograph this. And I was like, holy crap, that sounds terrifying. Maybe we should. That actually, that sounds like it would be a challenge. So maybe we should do it. And the first few photo shoots that I did were centered around my scar and my spine. And it really, seeing my spine like in a like broad daylight in a photo was just mind blowing, because it really proved to my brain that I didn't look half as bad as I thought I did. Yeah. It really challenged what my mental image of myself. And I was like, wait, okay, so maybe this isn't, it's my brain playing tricks on me. Maybe we can work through this. And the more that I owned it, and the more that I talked about it, and the more I started posting pictures, and then I started finding the community, and I feel like the ball really just started rolling after those initial few photos that I posted. Because I was met with so much support. It really gave me the confidence to continue and, maybe believe that there is a future in that space.
Mm-hmm. Did you recognize when you were stepping into that confidence and bravery of showing that beautiful piece of yourself, that it opened it up more for conversation and connection too?
Absolutely. Yes. I feel like I've had some of the most validating and enlightening conversations about scoliosis and about our shared experience that nobody's really gotten to share before, because, Instagram didn't exist. And I feel like I know so many people now that have scoliosis and a spinal fusion, but if I really take a step back, I haven't actually met a lot of them in real life because they're all on Instagram. But again, that doesn't make the conversation any less validating or less, important. And I've just been so grateful for the community. And I know that I've been able to provide some advice and validation for other younger girls that are coming up behind me. I've had a lot of dancers on Instagram reach out that are like, I just got diagnosed. How did you do this? This is so hard. Or there's unfortunately some girls are going into surgery at 14 and they're ballerinas too. And my heart goes out to them, but I'm so grateful that I can provide some value because of my experience. So I think that's been the most rewarding thing about talking about and being open about it on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Yes. When you were going through your surgery, Meredith, what was one thing that gave you comfort and support in that moment?
Yeah. Honestly, music for me, that really, really got me through. I'm a musician at heart. I grew up playing piano. I played saxophone. I was in marching band. All the fun things growing up, and also just being a dancer. Music, I feel like speaks to me in a different way. So even though I wasn't able to dance for that 6-month period, just music itself and lyrics and I just love art so much, and music, it really, really did get me through the hardest moments of that. So
I just found that connection of your love with jazz music, with you saying the saxophone.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. I can never get enough of it. I love jazz music, and the older I get, the more I'm like, wow, my childhood really did predict who I am as an adult.
100%. It's funny because when I was 13, I also really loved jazz music, and I had a very soulful, jazzy voice. But over time, I tried to make it more soprano because a lot of leads were soprano. So I tried to kind of conform to what leads were, and lost that beautiful piece of myself. And now I'm refinding girl, that soulful jazz has always been just a beautiful piece that people just needed to find. You never needed to change it, but you always go through those moments.
It's so true. You can be so influenced by like what's popular at the time, or yeah, it's so easy just to kind of stifle your natural ability. That's
Mhm.
so great though. So you were a singer?
I am coming back to singing. Yes. I was
Oh,
a
I
singer,
love that.
songwriter, performed on stage, loved
Yeah.
musicals and jazz as well. So,
Ah, I
yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes. Which takes me to Meredith, that you're a stilt walker, which makes me so excited because I love the whole essence of like performing arts and the circus and like fun little talents.
Yes, yes. It's a very niche talent. Everyone's like, how did you start doing this? Yes. Yeah, I love stilt walking. I kind of fell into it when I moved to New York City. I was originally hired to be a dancer for an entertainment company, and they needed more stilt walkers. And one day they were like, "Would you like to learn? We'll teach you, and we'll put you on some gigs in the city." I was like, "Sure, why not?" And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, please don't do that." And I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do it." So, yeah, I became a stilt walker and it's become one of my main sources of income. I love it. It's so much fun. And
Mhm.
I've met so many amazing people doing it. So here we are. It's one of those unexpected life things that I never, like, if you had told 15-year-old me that I'd be a professional stilt walker, I'd have been like, what?
I really love how you just take a challenge and you run with it. You're like, oh, that's going to be hard. Let's go.
It's true. It's true. I don't like to do the easy thing ever.
So, where do you perform when you're doing stilt walking? Like, what does that look like for us who are trying to get kind of a feel of, we can visualize a stilt walker, but like, what is a day in the life of you doing that?
Sure. It definitely changes on a daily basis. So the industry in New York City, I would just call it event entertainment. So it's, special events, festivals, anything. So the one that is the most consistent for me right now, I'm working at the Bronx Zoo. And we have a little event every weekend called Boo at the Zoo. And
Mhm.
so we have 4 stilt walkers that come every single weekend and we're all dressed up as animals. So right now I'm a flamingo every single weekend. And we just they have these amazing African drummers, and so they play this really great like solo for about 20 minutes, and we will do a little like parade around the Bronx Zoo, and we meet and mingle with all the kids that dressed up in their Halloween costumes, and we
Mhm.
just get to hang out and walk around, take pictures. So that's probably the most consistent one right now. But it can be anything from that to we do really fancy, like upscale events. We'll be dressed in full showgirl and feathers and sequins. Yes. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of variety, which I think is my favorite part because you never have the same job twice.
Mhm. How long did it take you to learn how to walk on stilts?
um I would say probably about a month to be confident. They didn't put me on a gig for a couple months,
Mhm.
just so I was like extra comfortable. But because I already had a really good sense of balance from scoliosis and or from dancing and dancing with scoliosis, I had already had to refine my center of gravity post surgery,
Mhm.
so my balance is pretty solid. And I I think I had maybe 4 or 5 lessons. Basically they teach you in a tennis court and they walk you around a tennis court so you can hold on to the fence.
Uh-huh.
And after you just keep walking and keep walking, keep walking, you get comfortable and eventually you let go, walk by yourself and work your way up from there.
That is amazing. I'm like, I fall down the stairs just
Oh
with my own
no.
feet. So I'm thinking to myself, this could be like a 6-month journey to get stable, but no.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
We're going to turn it to the inner child question segment. Are you ready, Meredith?
I am so ready.
Okay. First question. What was your theme song or your favorite go-to song as a teen?
Ooh. Um, I was really into like the punk pop vibes as a teenager. I still am, to be honest. I just went to a Panic at the Disco concert and it was amazing. Um, so let's see. Oh, this is one of those like I know I had a song in the day and it's escaping me right now. Um, I'm gonna choose a Sarah Bareilles song actually because she's like my favorite of all. I love Sarah Bareilles. I grew up, her music was just like my heart and soul growing up. So I would probably say like King of Anything was my, it was like my sassy
Mhm.
teenager,
Mhm.
you know, I'm cooler than everybody else song. So I just love her.
All right, Meredith. High five. I'm like hearing it in my head, and there's something about like you playing the piano as well. I can feel the keys like dun 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 dun.
Yes.
The energy that comes with that too. It's such a good
Yes.
song.
I'm so glad you know it.
Hmm. Yeah, my family still hears me sing Sarah Bareilles
Yes. Oh,
every day.
classic. Classic. She's so good. And I love her lyrics too. They're so meaningful and they read like poems. So I just
Mhm.
love that about her music.
Yes. Second question. As a kid, what was your favorite thing about dancing?
Ooh. Just the feeling of losing myself in the movement, and it was the thing for me that really just drowned out all of the other insecurity, the drama at school, anything that was happening in my life, a bad grade. Like I could go to a dance studio and not have to think about any of it. I could just be focused on the feeling that my body has while I'm doing the movements and that feeling of being bigger than just myself.
Mm-hmm. That feeling of getting lost in something is so magical.
Yes, definitely.
Hmm. Third question. What is the oddest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
Ooh. Um that I've liked and tried. Um I was a little picky growing up. My mom would be like a lot of picky growing up. But I really growing up, I don't know if this is weird or not, but I put ketchup on grilled cheese. So I know I've heard some people do that, but then there's other people that are like, oh my gosh, ew. So I think that'd probably be the oddest one I can think of off the top of my head.
Now, was it a dunk and dive where you had ketchup on your plate and you would just
Yes.
dip it in, or ketchup like all over the grilled cheese?
Oh no, it was a dunk situation. I like to control the ratio of the grilled cheese to the ketchup. It can't be too
Hmm.
much ketchup.
Hmm. So none
Mhm.
of the spraying anything on your food. You're
No, definitely not.
out. Before we end today, Meredith, can you share with our listeners and viewers what living a creatively abundant life means to you?
Ooh. I would say that living creatively for me has just been waking up every day knowing that I am actively choosing creativity and choosing my art, whatever that may look like for the day, because it doesn't always look the same every single day. Maybe one day I play piano, one day I dance a little bit, one day I stilt walk. Just knowing that I am pursuing something creative when I wake up every single day, I think means living creatively to me.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Meredith. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Finally, we connect.
Yes, finally, finally, finally. I'm so grateful.
Where can our listeners and viewers find you if they have any questions about your journey or what you're doing for your scoliosis?
Yes, I am on Instagram and TikTok at bionic_ballerina. So yeah, you can follow me there. That's pretty much those are the two platforms I'm most active on. So
Perfect. And we will put those down in the comments below so it's an easy access to find Meredith. Thank you again, Meredith. And thank you for those who have watched us and will also be on the replay. Remember, as you go about the rest of your week, to find the things that are working within your life. You are the creator of your own story. What steps are you going to take next? We'll see you right here on Thursday at 10 o'clock a.m., not p.m., a.m., Mountain Standard Time with Samantha Bailey. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.